Well, welcome to another presentation. Here we're going to be talking about complexity and uncertainty in the project management landscape. And for this chapter, like the previous chapter, this is the first of only one video where we're going to look at complexity and uncertainty in that project management landscape. So here's what we're going to try to do. We're going to go back and look at projects in terms of requirements, flexibility, adaptivity, risk, team cohesiveness, communications, client involvement, specification change, and business value. In each case, we're going to use really a standard format to look at that project management landscape and compare the attribute, risk, for example, against that landscape. So here's a little bit of a refresher. Remember our landscape. We've got goals over there being either clear or unclear, and then solutions being either clear or unclear. And what this does is it splits up our landscape of potential projects into four quadrants. Okay, and typically what you find is down there where you have a clear goal and a clear solution, that's going to be traditional project management. Where you have a not clear solution but a clear goal, it's going to be agile project management. That's the dominant quadrant, that second quadrant there. Where you have not clear goal and not clear solution, that would be extreme project management. And where you have a not clear goal and a clear solution, that would be emergency project management. All right, so having said that, let's talk a little bit about this idea of non-value added work, because this is important. What's going to happen is as you're working in an organization, there's a component of work that is non-value added, drinking coffee, going to get coffee. And there's a component that is very much a value add. And so, again, this comes into play in terms of looking at the project management landscape and making sure that you don't have non-value added work. When you have great uncertainty about a project and you don't even know if it's going to survive until the end of the week, it doesn't make sense to do a lot of documentation. That would be non-value added work. So this idea, what ends up happening is as you move into greater uncertainty, you'll see a lighter documentation and a lighter planning component associated with the project, not because those are necessarily bad activities, but because when you have great uncertainty on requirements or on goal or solutions, then you don't want to invest a lot of time in documenting it when it's just going to go away. I think that makes a lot of sense. All right, so let's start moving forward and looking at this project management landscape. And what you've got here, other than the complex task of reading a cartoon sideways, is this idea of complexity and uncertainty. And so the lowest complexity and uncertainty occurs over there in quadrant 1 for traditional projects. The most complex and the projects that have the greatest uncertainty are going to be up there in quadrant 3. And then quadrant 2 and 4 are going to have lesser forms of that complexity and uncertainty. So again, as you're planning out projects and trying to determine what lifecycle model you're going to use, complexity and uncertainty is going to be a key characteristic that you want to consider and work in. And as you have more complexity and uncertainty, again, you want to have a light touch associated with that project and not a lot of non-value added work associated with it. Same is true with risk. It actually follows the same trajectory. So the lowest risk projects are going to be traditional. The highest risk projects are going to be extreme, where emergency and agile are in between with regards to that. Now, and keep in mind, again, agile represent about 70% of the actual projects that are out there according to the author. So again, keep this in mind as you're comparing goal, solution, trying to pick the right approach. Risk is a large component of making that determination. Team cohesiveness is also in effect here. Again, you need more and more team cohesiveness as you move up through these quadrants. And in fact, for quadrants 2, 3, and 4, the book argues that you really should have the team members co-located and that they should be very experienced team members generally are often generalists because they're dealing with such uncertainty that they need this kind of holistic view to come to a viable solution in a meaningful amount of time. So again, team co-located generalists is what you're going to need by the time you get up into quadrants, either 2, 3, or 4. You can't be training, and they need to be very experienced people. You can't be training people as you're going through. Communications follows the same kind of trajectory, and again, it leads to you want to facilitate that communications, and co-location is often a mechanism for doing that. When we look at client involvement, the least amount of client involvement is going to be down there in Client 1, the traditional projects. But even then, as you've seen, I mean, we've just spent a number of videos looking at this. There's significant client involvement, but when you get to quadrants 2, 3, and 4, it's quite substantial in terms of what the client is going to need to have to do, and in terms of learning that is going to take place as part of this particular project. Shifting our characteristic and looking at specification, the highest specification is going to be down there in quadrant 1, and then you again start working through these other quadrants. You're not going to have complete requirements, okay? And so you're going to have to deal with uncertainty, and that lack of specification means you want lighter processes and lighter documentation to help you through. And again, just as a reminder, this requirements breakdown structure looks wonderful, but you're only going to have anything even approximating complete. It's not going to be complete, but approximating complete is only going to occur down in that traditional approach. In the other quadrants within the project management landscape, this is going to be an estimate at best. All right, expected change. Again, lowest expected change down in quadrant 1, significant expected change in quadrants 2, 4, and 3, with the heaviest amount of change occurring up there in quadrant 3 as you're working through this project. And then finally, business value is going to go up as you move across these quadrants, because you're taking much higher risk, which potentially has a much higher payoff. We'll look at that in less than 8 minutes. We've gone through Chapter 9. So this concludes the first and only video looking at complexity and uncertainty. And what we'll do during the next video or series of videos is start looking at agile project management. So keep on studying, keep on learning, and I look forward to seeing you in the next class.